This video is sponsored by Hunt a Killer. More about that in a bit.
Oh, sorry,
No, I'm sorry. I didn't see you.
Jack really went 70 years without game. Yet somehow the only girl he managed to pull was the one he was telling bedtime stories to. Now I know that sounds bad, but don't worry, it gets worse. As Jack may have gone back to the past, but he can't escape his. As even if this show is the GOAT, Jack and Ashi hooking up was a fumble even I can't forgive. Maybe if it was like well written, set up any time before it happened, or didn't occur through a series of rom-com moments, but no, it's just shit. The show really spent an entire season making the naive newcomer help her old mentor find the will to keep on fighting. Then they said screw it and had them start sucking face an episode later. This felt like a dad simulator if they had a romance option. I know some of you freaks would be into that, but back here in the real world, I think we can all admit that Jack and Ashi hooking up was a mistake. Maybe this show's biggest. As between mixed messages and the less than stellar writing, I've never been able to look at these two without thinking that we are in the darkest timeline. So in honor of the show's legendary creator dropping a brand new show for us to enjoy, I figured now is as good a time as any to talk about what a shit show this relationship was. The show's still amazing, but that doesn't mean I can give it a pass for whatever the hell this was.
sorry,
No,
But first, my sponsor. So have you guys ever just had like a bad game night? A night where, well, it's not terrible, but it's completely uninteresting? Well, I have the perfect solution to the problem I just invented. Hunt a Killer is basically an escape room in your own house. You get a box filled with props, and you then just go crazy as you try and solve the mystery. You have maps, you have prenups, you have murder notes, everything that you need to solve the case, and more is here, and it is just such a blast to do. As with so many other games, it's like you're playing a game, well with this, you are basically solving the case yourself, and that's what I love so much about it. It has that extra immersive element that you are just in it, and you will just go off and go crazy. If you ever feel like you're lost or like you don't know where to go next, just go to their Facebook page and they'll give you a new hint. It's that simple and you can get the game night back on track. Comb through the evidence, solve ciphers, really just stretch your problem-solving muscles. I love this game and I think a lot of you will love it too, but you know who also loves this kind of shit? Moms. Your mother is going to love this game as so many of their mysteries are written by their favorite authors. Yes, even that one. So if you want to get the perfect Mother's Day gift, really just be the highlight of the night, well, Hunt a Killer is running a special Mother's Day sale with special offers including a killer cocktail set, pun included. And if you want to get even more off that deal, well, I can help you with that too. See, if you solve the mystery and go to the link in the description, go to shophuntakiller.com/discount/sarcastic, use promo code sarcastic, and you will get 10% off your next deal. These murder mystery games are for everyone. You have one-offs that you can do in a single night, or you have multi-part epics where it feels like you are solving a season of TV. It's amazing, there's like voice acting involved, it is so much fun. I did Dead Below Deck, huge hit with my friends. You guys gotta try it out too. Thank you Hunt a Killer for sponsoring, but now, back to the video. Now before we get too deep into me being a hater, I just wanna make it clear that Samurai Jack is my favorite cartoon. I didn't say one of, second, or Avatar. Samurai Jack is my all-time favorite show. This thing, it changed me, with there being nothing on the planet that could make me love it less. Yes, even this. Telling the story of a samurai trapped in the future and looking for a way to get back to the past, hoping to undo the evil of his nemesis Aku, it was a weekly epic, where every episode was its own story, where all you needed was the opening and marshmallows because it was gonna be fire. Then it got canceled.
Deception! The betrayal, man, you deceived me!
Yeah, people didn't take it well. But honestly, if there was ever a show that worked without a proper ending, it was Samurai Jack. As there is no real plot, it was all about the journey. Plus, there was something poetic about the idea of Jack still looking for a way to return home. Always coming close, but his self-sacrificing nature would never let him take the easy way out or turn his back on someone in need. But then a funny thing happened. The show got another season. Yeah, 12 years later, after it was canceled, Jack was back, and the season was great. Except for one thing. Now, not to make excuses, but Jack in this season is not in a great place mentally, which is a polite way of saying he wants to kill himself. Aku, his nemesis, has destroyed every portal back to the past, leaving Jack trapped in the future with no way of going back home. But then, things got worse. As it turns out, Jack can't age and he lost his magic sword, dooming Jack to just go through the motions of fighting Aku with no hope of ever defeating him, as the magic sword was the only thing that could injure Aku on account of hacks. Thankfully though, Aku is just as depressed as Jack is, so he doesn't know how vulnerable Jack actually is. But this just means that the only thing keeping Jack alive is Aku not checking his messages, which is the kind of futile and frustrating existence that can drive anyone to madness. Jack at the start of the season is still helping people, he's still killing bad guys, but he's not the bringer of hope that he used to be. The man is slacking, and it takes him meeting Ashi to help re-inspire him to keep fighting the good fight and to find hope again. And this journey would take 7 episodes, and in that time, we got a completely platonic, vaguely master apprentice vibes. And then the show decided they gotta fuck, whipping out every romantic cliche imaginable to gaslight us into making us want them to hook up. But we don't. And I have to go through all this, as I really just need to highlight just how non-romantic their relationship is, till we got stupid, as even this brief summary doesn't convey how abrupt this mess was. As it'd be one thing if they set this up, but they didn't, and that's one of the biggest problems.
Something's poking me.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Now the season proper begins with Jack fully committing to war crimes, killing every robot in sight before just moving on, with the quiet dignity he used to have being gone. Replaced by armor and lots of weapons, he has fully stopped caring about style points and just wants to get this over with. He is just riding his motorcycle around without a plan, as Jack's days are spent forcing himself to get involved just so that he can avoid the guilt hallucinations that haunt his every thought. Feeling like a failure for not being able to get back to the past, leaving his family and people to be enslaved and killed by Aku's evil, Jack doesn't have anything going for him other than the fact that he can take whatever Aku has to throw at him. Yet just to drive home what a bad place he's in, when he sees smoke on the distance signaling something isn't right, he drives away, wanting to avoid trouble when previously he would have leapt right into the fire, especially if it meant helping the innocents. It takes half a day of literal guilt tripping to push him to go check it out. And at that point, he's not even doing it really to help, and it's more like he just needs to throw himself into anything to run away from his guilty conscience. The man just wants to quiet the voices, but they don't go away even mid-battle.
Help us, Jack.
This is how bad things have gone for Jack. It's horrifying. You feel awful as the man truly is at his lowest we've ever seen him. And this is a man who is used to almost dying every week. The guy who never gave up and always found a way is just going through the motions. He is one bad day away from doing something no one but his haters want to see. While Jack is off being his own worst enemy, a brand new one is being groomed to kill him.
Your training is complete. Go, kill!
See, the High Priestess of the Cult of Aku gave birth and raised her 7 daughters with the sole purpose of killing Samurai Jack. The daughters of Aku are given one of the worst cartoon childhoods I've seen in a while, being beaten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, with them getting a nice helping of emotional abuse for dessert, as their mom believed adversity would make them stronger, so she always made them eat seconds, actively encouraging her children not to care about one another or even themselves. Even if one of them was at risk of dying, they were only ever meant to focus on the mission, and if you got caught thinking about anything else, you got beatings. With the mom coming down especially hard on Ashi, the lone daughter of Aku who we learn anything about, who also just happens to be interested in the outside world, with that interest being suppressed or knocked out of her, as Ashi's upbringing is meant to be a dark reflection of Jack's. But while Jack was able to travel the world, learning from various cultures, gaining different styles of fighting, and typically having very loving mentors, Ashi was just raised in a single dark underground location with no knowledge of the outside world. The cult of Aku is trying to brainwash Ashi into the narrowest worldview possible, one where Aku is the source of all that is good and Jack is just pure evil, despite Aku being made of literal evil, with the only skills they teach her being violence, as she has no other purpose outside of it. In a series where Jack has spent the last 50 years constantly fighting literal killing machines, the daughters of Aku are just 7 more of them. Everything about them was stripped away or suppressed so that only the mission remained. And for how deadly and close they come to killing Jack, it's important to remember that, as their lives are truly tragic. Though for as close as they do come to finishing him, Jack is way closer.
I won't spend eternity in this forsaken time!
That escalated quickly.
Yeah, again, Jack is not doing well, but there is something messed up about him hallucinating his old self. For us to then have to watch this version of Jack try to argue to just give up, that he's going to die at some point, that the only honorable thing left for him to do is to commit seppuku, a type of ritualistic suicide performed by samurai, one that involves cutting your own stomach open before being beheaded. This is how low Jack has fallen, where he is fighting himself even while other people are trying to kill him. The man has no hope or plan for the future. He's living one near-death experience at a time, with his frustration manifesting in his other self. He doesn't give in, yet, but in his fight to save his life, he ends up taking someone else's. As to his shock, the daughters of Aku aren't machines, they're human, making this the first time in 50 plus years that he's ever taken a human life. Which, okay, sure. Let's just believe that for a second. That during all this time, Jack has never killed another human after the tens of thousands of people Aku has sent after him. But killing this girl messed him up worse than almost bleeding out did. So while Jack is fever dreaming a justification for what happened, Ashi and her sisters don't spare a second for their dead one. They pulled that body out of the castle and just left them there, as all that mattered was the hunt.
Death is failure.
Bye, bitch.
Then just in case you doubt just how sheltered these women really are, they get spooked the second they see a deer. Yeah, a deer.
Should we kill it?
Like really, did they not get any knowledge that didn't involve killing? You'd think the cult would at least tell them what's edible so they don't starve. As this wasn't a field trip, they had to hike quite a ways to go find Jack. So like, what did they eat the whole trip? Whatever. Daughters of Aku hyper-specialized to track and fight with no other knowledge, even if it helped them survive, get confused at the sight of a second deer. With their only reference for outside life being Aku, they take one look at the horns and assume he must be one of his, leaving them even more stunned when it doesn't kill the other one, and they just rub noses and walk away, as companionship is a foreign concept to them, and is something Ashi will learn lots about later. Their only reference for how creatures interact is obedience or violence. Yet even at this late stage of drinking the Kool-Aid, Ashi has that little sliver of interest in the outside world, purposely taking watch so that she can stare at the stars, having always been captivated by the natural world after spending her whole life being kept in the dark. And then, people start dying. So Jack, fresh off of remembering how his dad told bandits that they have only themselves to blame for getting killed, offers the daughters a chance to move on. If they choose to stay, then whatever happens is out of his hands. They don't listen, but thankfully they don't live long enough to regret it. Nailed it! It's also very interesting how Jack's relationship with the natural world and animals is always depicted as one of his greatest strengths, being able to work with them to survive. Yet in contrast, the DOA live up to their acronym by getting wiped one after another, primarily because they are unfamiliar with their surroundings. One of them wastes a sigh to attack a crow that would just happen to be there, leaving an opening for Jack to kill her. In another point of proof to just how badly these girls were raised, Ashi dodged out of the way of the spear, without warning the person behind her, as the training they received has them prioritizing themselves rather than protecting each other, allowing Jack to pick them off one at a time, so Aku no longer has to worry about child support.
Can never escape from Aku. Die! Die, Samurai! You will die!
Thankfully though for the story, Jack isn't that lucky. So this is the beginning of Jack and Ashi's bonding. He just killed her sisters, and she faked her death to try and stab him in the back. with the two of them getting trapped in a giant beast where she still is trying to kill him, even as he continually saves her life. See, the fact that Ashi is alive is a bit of a problem for Jack, as it creates a bit of a moral quandary. He is totally down to kill her when she has left him no other choice. But now that she's at his mercy and is fairly manageable on her own, he struggles to abandon or just end her himself. Even when he gets golden opportunities to just leave her to die, he doesn't, as the guilt hallucinations are just not letting him. But the real important thing here is that he realizes she's just misguided. Seeing how she hates him and praises Aku, and most importantly thinks Aku is good, which is an insane statement not even Aku would make, as the Eldritch Abomination has no delusions of being righteous. He is a cartoon villain through and through, and that's what we love about him. If Ashi was just trying to kill Jack for money or evil, he'd get it. But the fact that she seems genuinely loyal and thinks that working for Aku is working for the greater good makes Jack want to save her, even as she spends most of the trip talking shit.
You have planned for me. I will never buckle, never waver. Your death is certain. Aku desires it. You are a parasite, samurai, feeding off Aku's generosity. Master, this fool knows not of your greatness, your kindness, your understanding.
Enough!
Jack has no idea what to do here. The best he can come up with at first is just to yell at her that she's wrong. Everything she knows is a lie. He doesn't really have any proof that would break 20-something I hope years of propaganda. Not to mention the context to understand that she was raised by a cult. But after many misadventures in the belly of the beast, with Jack switching tactics from anger to small talk and jokes, with them managing to escape, with Ashi finally being free, ready to kill Jack again, only she sees him with a ladybug. He's just appreciating them. Which is important because she has history with this animal, as she once saw as a child, only for her mother to kill it, saying that this thing wasn't a part of Aku's order. So seeing them again with Jack creates a genuine internal conflict and contradiction in her mind, as more than just Jack telling her that she's wrong, this small amount of curiosity, how it's not a part of Aku, yet still somehow beautiful, after being told her entire life that Aku is the source of all that is good. She begins to doubt her teachings, so seeing Jack with the ladybugs opens up the opportunity that he might be able to tell her more about the outside world, as the questions are bubbling to the surface and she wants answers. Now this whole sequence is fun. Ashi is being intentionally annoying, trying to sabotage Jack at every opportunity, with the samurai being flummoxed by just how to deal with the situation, as he's never had to flip anybody before. The journey isn't really framed as them growing closer emotionally. Jack just gets better and better at dealing with her, ignoring her monologues, making jokes instead of yelling back, with Ashi realizing yelling isn't getting her anywhere, so she goes silent to just tolerate his existence till she finds a new way to kill him. I mean, we get the scene where he picks the needles off of her body, but it's not really romantic, it's just comedy. The show is reveling in these two struggling against each other. I'm not really getting any romantic vibes, other than two stock comments.
Be still! Crazy woman! Can you not see that I am saving your life? You're welcome.
I'd be happier as that creature's excrement than be grateful to you. What did you expect? A hug and a kiss?
Though often used with couples, it doesn't really convey any extra meaning. These don't mean that Jack has some underlying attraction to her. It's poking fun at how Ashi, despite being the damsel of this situation, hates him and is making his life difficult. They're not building romantic tension, he's just frustrated, and this platonic energy just keeps going. As even when it turns out that Ashi hallucinates too, or maybe her mom is just Skyping her, Ashi refuses to kill Jack, choosing to instead journey with him to find out for herself what Aku is really like, tracking the man down after he tried to part ways, demanding that he provide facts to back up his claims. He refuses at first, then agrees when she calls him out for not knowing what she's been through, and assuming she can't change, with him indulging her interest for the natural world, mostly by telling her a bedtime story that his mother used to tell him. And this is where I'm just gonna rip the band-aid off the whole father-daughter allegations. Yeah, I see it. I don't really buy it, but I get why people would get that vibe, then latch onto it maybe just a bit too hard. As a monster episode really feels like one of those rough road trip movies involving a parent and a child. Ashi is very emotionally immature early on, having no social skills, having been raised in a cult, which causes her to throw tantrums constantly before sulking or pouting about not getting her way. It's very much how you'd imagine a teen girl would react, which she is not, I hope, with Jack easily being slotted into her exhausted and very annoyed father. But they move away from this area very quickly. But the trope that they go to is adjacent to that. Like, Jack ends up showing her undeniable proof that Aku is a monster, from his crimes against nature to his cartoonishly evil immigration policy.
Your new home will be coordinate 61271.
It is occupied.
Is that a problem for you?
No.
Ashi realizes Aku is bad, and being fresh to the fight, she wants to make change happen. But Jack is burnt out, and doesn't believe it's possible to defeat Aku, believing that the best that they can do is small personal victories, which is where we watch their dynamic solidify into what I think is their actual relationship. While they are a bit closer to partners, these two very much mirror a jaded mentor and a more hopeful apprentice. Think Hamish and Katniss from the Hunger Games, or for an actual cartoon example, Phil and Hercules. Like, at this moment, if Jack could retire, he would. But instead, he just keeps walking the earth, trying not to give in to the hallucinations. But now Ashi is at his side, and pushing him to try.
What can we do?
Nothing.
What?
This is the narrative point of Ashi. Jack is still in his darkest hour with no hope that things can change. He doesn't think that he can get back to the past and undo the evil that is Aku. So even though his sword is technically out there, Jack has given up even trying to find it, of stopping Aku here in the future. He's still a hero, but he doesn't have a plan, viewing it all as futile. But then we have Ashi, someone who isn't so jaded, with hope that things can change, who helps to re-inspire Jack, to open her mind to the possibilities of being more than what the cult told her to be. She's the perfect character to help Jack. Something that is cemented by Jack finally hitting rock bottom when he thinks he just watched a child massacre. The man breaks completely, following the samurai specter that's been trying to get him to come die this entire season. It's a bit of a misunderstanding, as Ashi realizes the truth that these kids are still alive and sets out on quest to find Jack, to save him from himself, with her journey to try and find him being a walk through the show's greatest hits. Seeing all the people that he's helped and how they have been able to thrive because of it, having families, building communities, or just being able to keep the party going. Ashi sees all the lives that Jack has saved through his actions. He may have been on a quest to get back to the past, but along the way, he's helped everybody. With Jack's problem being, he always just moved on. Not getting to see the fruits of his labor, were devoid of the proof of what he did good, he could only focus on his failures and his frustration. Ashi gets to see all of this. She sees how Jack inspires people even to this day, and that all of his work hasn't been for nothing, that he was able to change things for the better. And she finally gets a chance to tell Jack all of this, while he's seconds away from stabbing himself.
The hope you gave me saved my life!
Realizing that she owes everything to Jack, that he helped her see that she was so much more than what the cult tried to mold her into. Speaking of which, Ashi symbolically removed the cult's influence by scrubbing off the charcoal covering her skin, which is cool. Except, wait, that's not a bodysuit. It turns out that Ashi's mom threw her into something, what I'm probably gonna guess is magical tar, meaning that she has been naked this entire time. Okay, just gonna move on. Now, I do love the actual scene of her saving Jack. Jack is trapped between two beings, appealing to hope and pessimism. That Ashi pleads with him to live, thanking him for all that he's done for her, using herself as proof of the good Jack has done. Yet for as much as I like this scene, I do feel like the message of picking hope is kind of weakened by how the conclusion plays out. With the spirit leveraging Jack's guilt over the not dead children incident, with Ashi telling him that no, they're alive.
The children! They're alive! You saved them!
Ashi makes such a strong pitch for Jack to keep on living, yet the way it's resolved makes it feel less like it's the speech, and more like the straw that broke the camel's back didn't happen. It was supposed to be a combination, but the structure and how they layer it feels like they pulled a reverse Uno card on Jack's mental health. He chooses to live, and these two are now on a mission to find Jack's sword and stop Aku, which just involves Jack meditating on a mountain for a while till he realizes he's the problem. Ashi, meanwhile, single-handedly fights off an entire army and kills her mother, refusing to go back to the cult, pointing out how Jack may have ended her sisters, but it was her mom who raised them to be killing machines and set them on that path that really killed them, unaliving her mother to save Jack, giving the samurai enough time to let go of his anger and resentment and to achieve inner balance, being rewarded with a shave, his old duds, and his sword. Also, Ashi is dead.
Jack?
Yes, it is me.
Yeah, I lied. Kinda wish I wasn't. But now we're about to go into the part where everything is pain. But to summarize what we've learned, these two had nothing romantic going on. Ashi deeply cared about Jack. Yes, he was the reason that she was able to be deprogrammed after being raised by zealots. But everything about their interactions were framed as platonic, with there not being enough romantic overtones to push the idea that there's something simmering beneath the surface. Sure, when they first met, they hated each other. Jack kept saving her life, his own subconscious was negging him, but these tropes aren't explicitly or exclusively romantic on their own. We never get the sense that they are attracted to each other, or that the love that they feel is explicitly romantic. After they stop fighting, Jack takes on a mentorship role where he tries to show Ashi that Aku is evil. And after she becomes good, Ashi starts pushing him to keep fighting when he's too burnt out and emotionally scarred to do so. They become partners in a heroic sense. They are working together to save the day. Even when she's pleading with him to live and talking about how he helped her, isn't really the romantic slam dunk people think it is. As just because someone saved your life and giving you a new appreciation for it doesn't make them your soulmate. That makes them your therapist. Jack helps people, so Ashi is framed as just being the most recent in a long series of people whose lives have been improved thanks to Jack. Yeah, Ashi and Jack complement each other's appearance after they changed up their look. It isn't significant, it isn't framed in, oh no, they're hot now. Their appearance represented their mental state and beliefs. Ashi went from wearing all black to a more nature-themed grass skirt, as nature is something that the show has always affiliated with good. She's moved away from the artificial and absolute beliefs of Aku and her mother. Meanwhile, Jack goes from a depressed homeless man with an unkept beard and long hair to his iconic clean cut and white gi. The shift in clothing is highly symbolic and a radical change to their appearance, as when they've met, they've only known the other as this. So them appreciating the other's new look doesn't feel romantic. It feels like an acknowledgement of their character development and how they've become better for it. Like, I can feel some people might try to argue that when we see Ashi get these looks, they are meant to be Jack's perspective of her. That she is beautiful because that's how Jack sees her, but, and I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Ashi is just beautiful. Nothing about these scenes imply a romantic connection. The scene where he thinks he's cradling her body is just stone silent. There's no small trill or romantic notes to drive us, oh, there are feelings here. And the second she's okay, Jack doesn't linger. He doesn't stay an extra moment like he wants more. He immediately detaches himself, going from cradling her body to being a foot away in between shots, with those close-ups implying concern, but not emotional damage. The show doesn't in the dialogue or visually convey the idea that we are meant to see them as a couple, which they could have done to foreshadow when they hook up. Instead, what we got was this poor girl and are you okay child. We just got the money shot of Jack classic, then a joke about all the people Ashi just murdered. Everything about how they interact here is extremely chaste, platonic, friends, or whatever word you want to use for them not banging. They are partners on a mission.
So what next?
Aku.
Which, you know what? I think the show is aware of that. It's been doing all this amazing character work, none of which would have been enhanced by the extra layer that they're in love. Yet, when it did figure out a scene that would be improved by them being in love, they took a hard right into horny, speedrun it, lay it on thick, as they knew they hadn't built up to it at all so far. Ashi and Jack catching feelings is some of the most rushed, hokey-ass bullshit romance I have ever seen, and the episode where they hook up feels like it's from a different show.
Oh, something's poking me.
Oh, kill me. Okay, like, I can't undersell how much this show went from no romantic vibes to beating us over the head with it. The show scrambles so hard to make this happen, and I could get behind this. I'm not, like, in my gut against it, yet they do such a shockingly bad job at creating any sort of emotional transition where Jack and Ashi go from partners on a mission to lusting, as this is what they needed most of all. A transition. A moment where they realize, oh shit, I'm in love, after spending their entire time together just being partners. But we don't get a transition. Instead, it is just incredibly awkward comedy that never gives you a chance to buy into them as a couple. So instead of thinking, oh my god, it's happening, they are really getting together, you're more focused on the hidden hand of the author and thinking, are they really doing this? As again, there is no proper emotional transition or awakening of feelings. Instead, the story is just telling you they're in love now. Because he's a guy, she's a girl, it must be a thing. As a random character elbows the audience like, oh, look, they're a couple.
I'll just try something over here.
Woman, who understands them, yeah?
And because someone in the universe sees it, we as an audience are supposed to start seeing it too. Despite the fact that the vendor's joke went completely over Jack's head. He doesn't deny it, or say, no, we're not a couple, before going like, oh shit, are we, do I wanna be? No, he just moves on with the grand impetus. The moment that makes Jack painfully aware of his attraction to Ashi is a dick joke.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
So yeah, like every romance anime, they are trapped in crowded public transportation, being pressed up against each other. We get the dick joke, which fully sets the painful tone that we're gonna spend the rest of the episode dealing with. Yet even this moment of weirdness really doesn't do the job it needs to. As yes, it does set the awkward tone, but never fully sells us on these characters being on board with it. The joke happens, Jack is just super apologetic. There's no blushing or oh no, that might be my dick. It's just genuine my bad. Then we cut to what I can only describe as a little bit later, and the two have just forgotten how to act. As Jack, far from genuine concern, is now sweating bullets, stealing glances, and making awkward small talk. There's no moment where we go, oh no, I've caught feelings. And if there is, it was somewhere in the hour or so we didn't see where he realized she's hot and doesn't know how to deal with it. Which, okay, Jack is a very formal, chivalrous samurai, pressed up against a very beautiful young woman. I can buy him struggling with what to do. But right now, the man is like really ready to jump out of his own skin.
That was quite humorous, the way we were trying to grab the pole, but our hands kept touching.
They want these rom-com vibes so badly, but this shit is not tracking nor convincing enough to sell you on this shift. Not to mention, and this just, of course you gotta mention it, they have spent, like 60% of their time together almost naked. So for them to be sweating close proximity now, okay, fine. I guess that tracks about as well as them floundering over touching hands. Suddenly, every act of them touching each other is overemphasized with romantic music. This show is going so hard to make you buy into they have feelings now. They didn't have any of these musical vibes at any other point. They saved it all for right here, right now, in episode 8 of a 10-episode season, where after being forced to get handsy with one another, they have to escape and go on a nice romantic walk across a desert. In what is supposed to kind of have like a cute date vibe, they are staring lustfully, wearing matching hats, as this is all supposed to be just oh so cute. And after the date, they kind of go to a nice little love alien spaceship, and we go straight into horny. Like, I mean, things are really, really horny.
I can't get it to work.
Ashi, you're naked!
So,
Well, I mean, you know, men and women are different, and private things are personal.
Ashi has been wearing body paint the entire time she's known Jack. Yet she also realized nudity was a thing, or else she wouldn't have put on the leaf dress. But now she has gone back to not having any problems with it, because, funny. In case you're keeping track of the cliches we've done so far, we've had some things poking me, being pressed up against each other, awkwardly trying not to touch hands, but it keeps happening. Then just to add one more scene, we have Jack sucking the venom out of her leg after she got bit by something poisonous. Then because we're running out of time, they fight alien leeches that strip them naked, as this entire fight is one massive metaphor for sex. Because Jack is struggling with protection, and it ends with them screaming each other's names, getting covered in fluids, and panting on beat.
What the hell is that?
Now this is my fundamental problem with how this show gets them together. It's not just that it's abrupt, it's not just how it contradicts what's already been established. The thing that kills me is that Jack and Ashi getting together is based purely on the fact that they want to fuck. There's no emphasis being put on their emotional connection. Ashi helped Jack come back from the brink. Jack saved her life and basically helped start hers. Yet despite all this genuine bonding, the episode where they get together is solely focused on horny. It is all physical interactions. There is no emotional bond being reinforced or changed here. You could replace Ashi with any female character and this episode would play out exactly the same. Rather than telling a story about why these two should be together, the point of this episode is an escalation in physical contact till they're sucking face. It's really just banking on the fact that he's a guy, she's a girl, they're both hot, so of course it's gonna happen, despite their interactions being completely platonic beforehand. It's fine if they wanna bang. It's the start of many ships. But there's zero sexual tension before this episode, and then we get overloaded with it. I don't buy the excuse that Jack's depressed so he wasn't looking. The man has eyes. The approach that they take isn't them falling in love. They just get hornier and hornier till they can't stand it anymore. Which sure, if they want to kiss, fine, go along with it. But then the show tries to act like they're soulmates, like this relationship is so significant, Jack would be willing to surrender to Aku to save her. These two already had a special connection. This episode is trying to force it to be something that it wasn't, and that drives me crazy. And the fact that it's just done because horny, it just feels so sloppy, especially after so much of the season has done such great work with just visual storytelling. To have this horror turned into just the most cliche of cliches, it's a weird thing to just accept. If you want to take the emotional connection that they already had and say, oh, they're falling in love too, sure, it's doable. Instead, what we get is one long sex joke, and unless you already like the idea of them hooking up, this episode does nothing for you. And if you want the real reason for why this happened, I'll tell you, it's real simple. This show had only 3 episodes to make this ship happen. Really, it only had 1, as in the next, Jack has to surrender to Aku on the account of Ashi being his hostage, then would die at the altar after sending him back to the past on account of being Aku's actual daughter. Don't worry about it. With all Jack's angst about Ashi becoming a memory turning out to be true when she fades out of existence, as without Aku, she can't exist, giving us a bittersweet ending, one that is made all the more tragic by them being in love. But even for a rushed love story, this is so goddamn sloppy. It's overly horny in a way that makes the whiplash between what they were and what they are being forced to be all the more painful, weird, and just confused. Even as someone with a controversial opinion that I like the ending to Samurai Jack, I can't get behind this relationship. They either need to foreshadow it earlier, or just write a better episode about them falling in love.
Darcy! I love you!
Samurai Jack is still fire. I still like this season for the most part, but they dropped the ball at convincing us Ashi and Jack would ever fall in love, rather than the writers forcing them together and going, now kiss. I know some people are mad at the age gap about how Jack is really 75 something and we don't know Ashi's age, but that is the least of this ship's problems. Alright, that's gonna do it for me, folks. Remember to keep an eye out for Gendy's next work, Unicorn Warriors Eternal, going out May 4th on Adult Swim. I'm excited as hell, just hoping we don't get another romantic subplot, as writing them has never been this man's strengths, except that one time. Which, yeah, I am definitely gonna be talking about this one. But to be kept up to date on whenever I release that, subscribe to my channel, comment what you thought about Jack and Ashi, let me know what you guys thought about Season 5, but most of all, stay safe out there, and have a good one.